Welcome to the Girls Marketing Podcast, your one-stop shop for all things marketing and the perfect backing track to your workday. Every week, we get up close and personal with marketers revolutionising the industry so you can learn from the best in the game. From the latest marketing trends to building a successful marketing career, no topic is off limits. At Girls in Marketing, we champion progress, inspire change, and encourage women to take the marketing world by storm. Check out our website and membership to learn more and get involved, as we'd love to welcome you to our inner circle. Right, let's dive into another episode together. Welcome back to the Girls in Marketing podcast. Today, I'm delighted to be joined with Tasha Antwi. Tasha has worked in the SEO industry for over 11 years, developing SEO strategies across web search, e-commerce, video search, and social with omnichannel in mind. In that time, she's become an expert in the luxury and premium brand space, covering content marketing, digital PR campaigns, technical SEO, and holistic search. She has worked with a variety of brands, including Gucci, Ralph Lauren, Barber, Mr. Porter, Barcelo Hotels, and Lego, leading the global SEO team. This conversation is such an insightful one that I know that you're going to love. We talk all things SEO, search, user journeys, and of course, TikTok. Let's dive in. Hello.
Hello.
Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
I would absolutely love to just start at the beginning. We love to start at the beginning. How did you go from being an aspiring doctor to working in digital marketing, in SEO? How did that even come about?
Do you know what? It was a weird one. I think it was always kind of destined to happen anyway. Like, I'm still interested in like the sciences and things like that. I still like read up on it in my free time and do stuff. But I think, do you know what? Growing up in an African household, my family's Ghanaian. I was born obviously in London, but was going to Ghana as young as I can remember. But they really pride like when they've got kids that are doctors or lawyers and things like that. So I think for me, it was just more of a kind of wanting to make my parents proud kind of thing as well. And I did have a sense of pressure because my two younger brothers are also severely autistic. So, and we all care for them. So I think for me, I just felt like pressure to kind of go down that route. But I always had like this passion, desire for like business, marketing and fashion I really wanted to explore. And I actually didn't do all the sciences at when I was at college. So I went on to do biomedical science with the plan of doing that. But then I did my first year, failed it, had to redo it again, then did the second year. And I just thought, I'm not going to do well here because it's not really a passion. So then I did this crazy thing where I decided to drop out. And at the time, all my friends were like crazy, like, you've got one more year to go. Well, why would you drop out now? Just finish your degree. And I was like, no. And when I make a decision, that's literally it. There's no going back, basically. And I had been working part-time at Miss Selfridge, which is part of the Arcadia group before it all kind of disappeared, or well, ASOS own it now. And so I just increased my hours there and was working full-time in retail, kept getting promoted until I was like a supervisor. And then when I was there, I got chatting to the head of marketing. But because I was a supervisor, I was able to basically put things through the till for free, where they might take it out for press or PR things. And then also, I forgot their name, it's going to bug me now, but you know, on ITV, you've got the people that kind of do the little styling, you know, this little look of the week, and they go around to the stores and show what people are wearing. They would come in all the time, and I would also serve them as well, and I also give them stuff for free. So I also got chatting to them. So that was like really interesting. I was like, oh, what they do is really, because they're on this morning. So it was really cool. So I was enjoying it. I wasn't complaining, but it wasn't necessarily what I wanted to do, even though I had like this passion for, I hate saying passion for fashion, but even though I enjoyed fashion, it just wasn't really, it wasn't, I didn't want to be on the shop floor. And then when I got chatting to the head of marketing, she was the one that actually enlightened me to the fact that I could actually get an internship within the head office if I wanted to, but obviously it wasn't something that was widely promoted. And I guess it probably would be very popular and everyone would want to do that on the shop floor, hence why they never said. And I was working on Oxford Street, it's like one of the busiest streets in London. So I ended up taking the internship there. I was there for about 3 weeks, and it was over the course of Fashion Week. I had a great time because obviously I was working closely with the marketing teams. My job wasn't anything exciting. I literally was watching all of the runway looks when style.com used to exist. I think Vogue bought it before all the runway images would get placed on there, and I would have to go online, print off all of these runway images, put them on the boards for the designers to use. And then off of that, that's how they come up with their designs and obviously their concepts that they use that then go into the stores. I remember going to this really cool magazine shop in central London. It's like on the most quietest street, but it has every single fashion magazine globally, like in this store. Like you can get Vogue from the most obscure place, like in there. So I had to go through all the magazines, just pick up what all the trends are and do all of that stuff. So I really enjoyed it and enjoyed like how they used it to kind of come up with their marketing strategies and things like that for their collections that were coming up and how they'll come up with the themes. And then that's when I decided I'm going to go back to uni, but this time I'm to have a good balance between maybe family expectation versus what I want to do. I ended up going to Kingston University to do business and management. And I remember again, my friends were like, "You're crazy," because yes, I had people in my class that was like younger than me, but I was not fussed because I was like, I'm just going to do this.
There's nothing worse than a bad website, but setting up your own website is tricky, especially with no coding experience. I'm currently building my personal website using Hostinger, and I'm absolutely loving it. Hostinger's AI website builder is a great starting point for those of us with less coding experience. All I had to do was sum up the website I wanted in a few sentences, and AI generated a professional website in seconds. Thanks so much to Hostinger for sponsoring this episode of the podcast. You're just a few clicks away from building the website of your dreams. So go to hostinger.com/girlsinmarketing and use the code girlsinmarketing for 10% off your plan.
So I literally treated uni like work. I had a very strict schedule in terms of how I went on. If I spoke to you at uni, at Kingston, it was literally because we had to do work. I literally was so serious because I was like, I've had my university experience. I don't need to repeat that again. And I just want to leave here with like a first or a 2-1 or something like that. So that's basically what I did. And it was in my final year that I kind of came across this whole world of digital marketing. So I actually did my dissertation. I chose to do a dissertation, which was a choice at the time at Kingston, which isn't quite common at loads of unis. It's usually compulsory to do a dissertation. But I chose to do one, and I did it on online advertising of fashion brands online to understand people's perceptions towards it. And it was at the time that I think maybe like programmatic and you know, like the banner ads and things like that. There was just so many of them at the time. And I was like, like this might be annoying. I would like to know what people actually think and if it works, because if I'm seeing it everywhere, it must work. So, and hence why they're doing it. So that's why I did my dissertation on that. And that's when I came across SEO, affiliate marketing, PPC, programmatic, and so on. And then I decided that actually, I think if I get a job, it needs to be in this area, because I think that's where the world is going to go. And then simultaneously at that time, I'd also decided to start a fashion line, a contemporary African fashion line. So to obviously scratch the design itch as well that I also had. And I ended up creating a brand. It was called Chennai. The website's gone, but if you Google it, you might be able to find a few bits. And I didn't realize what we did with the site and the brand was more or less like SEO tactics.
Okay.
So for example, we got featured in like Elle magazine, but like in South Africa, Marie Claire, and a few other publications. And they're obviously linking back to the site. So that's what modern day digital PR is. So that's literally what we were doing. We were contacting journalists. We were saying we've got samples and we're launching this new collection. Would you like to feature it? And they were taking it, they're putting it on models and actually featuring our images. We were sending them press releases. We were sending them images from like the shoots that we did, and they were featuring it. It was really cool. We even had a famous singer called Tinashe. She's over in the US. I'm not sure if you guys know her, but she wore one of our dresses on her EP cover. We had Estelle shouting us out on like Twitter and a few other like social platforms. It was really cool. And then unfortunately, it just became hard to maintain, like with uni, working part-time. I was doing it with a friend, and she was working full-time, and at the time she was working for a really big media agency as well. So it ended up kind of falling to the ground, and then we just kind of left it like that. But I just like, right, I'm just going to go and pursue something in SEO. And that's basically what happened. And then I think I saw a job role for my first ever role, which was at an agency called Forward 3D. I think now they might be called Assembly Global, if I'm correct, because they've been bought a couple of times now since then. And I remember procrastinating about, when you see a job ad and you procrastinate. And I saw a Milk Round. I think Milk Round is still around. So if anyone's listening who's trying to get an entry-level role into digital, Milk Round was really good at the time. And I remember going to work. I'd moved stores just down the road to House of Fraser. And I remember having like a heated, I wouldn't say an argument, I would say a disagreement with my manager over finger spacing. And I just remember thinking, I want to come to work to have more to think about than finger spacing. Like, do you know what I mean? I was like, I've done the rail. If someone's come and moved it, I can't I'm not omnipresent. I'm not God. I can't stop everything. And literally that was a discussion that I had. And as soon as I was fuming, and again, made another decision. I was like, when I say I was fuming, I just waited for her to leave the store. I just said to the girl that I was working with, I'm just going to Stockholm. I'll be back. I was not back. I had my laptop. I went down the road to Joe and the Juice, and I finally submitted my application for that role. And that's how I got into SEO.
Oh my God.
I was pushed into it out of anger.
Yeah. You know what though? That's a case so often with people. It's like, you're pushed into something because of a certain situation or, something like that. So then how did you then get into kind of like luxury brands and working with luxury brands from like an SEO perspective? Because I think it's so different for those big like kind of like household name brands, isn't it?
Yeah. Do you know what? I was really fortunate that, like I said, my first ever agency that I went to, they had a lot of fashion brands, and it was known at the time for like fashion and those kind of brands and luxury as well. So they had Kering at the time, and even Chanel, but we didn't do SEO for Chanel, it was more for PPC, but they had Kering and they had a few other brands. So I was really fortunate to be able to work on brands like New Look, Kat Geiger, and then obviously there was when we had Kering, Gucci, Saint Laurent, Bottega Veneta. I did some bits on Balenciaga and Stella McCartney as well. So I was lucky that was the kind of clients that they had. And I noticed that there was a kind of, I want to say, gap in the team market within my team, because there wasn't that many girls in the SEO team. And then in my particular team, it was quite big. I think there was about 8 of us in our team, 8 or 9 in our little pod within the SEO team. And all of them were boys apart from me and one other. And obviously when they're doing keyword research, these guys don't know what free quant lumps are and, different things. So I just thought, you know what, let me just make this my thing kind of thing. Because obviously I like fashion. I understand it. I also used to design fashion. I know how to get it into publication. So I was like, let me make this my thing. So I just kind of made it a point to become the expert when it came to like keyword research and understanding what users would do in this fashion space and understanding like the fashion circle of life, if you like.
Yeah.
Like I know that, for example, you need to have like ankle boots on your website in July, August, not even October, like not in the September and October when people start buying them, but that's when you need to start doing all that stuff. So I knew all of that stuff. And a lot of the work I did even meant that even Ralph Lauren, they used to release their suits at a particular time of the year, but based on keyword research when it would peak and stuff like that, we told this to them and they even changed when they started doing that. So I just made it my thing because I was like, the guys don't know, but I know, it's fine.
No, I absolutely love that. And it's about going into companies and being that expert and kind of standing out from the crowd and saying like, actually, this is my thing. Do you feel like you were kind of rewarded for that? Do you think that was like noticed by people, or maybe wasn't it?
I think, do you know what? I think it was noticed. I think it was noticed, but it wasn't necessarily rewarded. Okay. And I don't know if it's because of like the environment that was. Like I said, there wasn't that many girls in the SEO team. I was one of 2 Black people in the team again. A lot of people kept calling me the other girl's name. We don't look alike, but it's just because it's just us 2, that kind of thing. So I think there was like various challenges. But what I did realize pretty quickly and early on was that everyone else kind of like would ask to have opportunities and do stuff, and I did too. Like, I remember thinking, oh, like they do this really big report, I want to do that, like, or learn how to do that. And I would ask, and they'll be like, oh, well, there's so many other people doing that. So to take out every possible excuse that could be, that might be like holding me back, what I realized is that actually, if I look at it like very, like non-biasedly, there's four managers on this account, and then there's 2 senior managers, and there's a team lead. There's too many cooks in the kitchen. So of course there's only so many jobs that can go around. So that means that if I'm going to wait for them, my progression is going to be very slow. So I just downloaded the report
Fair enough.
myself onto my own laptop and reverse engineered it and taught myself how to use Excel. And then I redesigned it. I was like, here's a nice little, shiny report. And then I was really strategic in terms of even moving teams, because I loved working with everyone that I was on a team with. I still chat to 1 or 2 of them till this day. But I was like, if I stay here, I'm not going to progress. So I literally had a meeting with the head of SEO, and I just said, I think this is how I would like to, this is what I would like to learn, and this is what I would like to do. But I think it might be better if I'm in a smaller team so I can really exhibit that. And he was like, okay, cool. I didn't go in and say, oh, everyone on my team's an idiot, I would like to move, or they're not giving me the opportunity. I just said, this is what I think I can give to the business. And it worked. So I think it got rewarded in that sense. And I think what was actually really nice is that I actually did, I spoke at a conference called Brighton SEO. I don't know if you've probably heard of it. And I randomly was added to a group chat. And it turns out that one of the most senior people at the time that was at New Look was also in the chat. So obviously she's moved on to a different thing, but she WhatsApped me separately, and she sent me the nicest message. Imagine this is like 10 years ago that I worked on this. And she sent me a message saying that she felt that I was always one of the smartest people on that account and really appreciated the work that I did. I was like, that was so nice. That's 10 years later. But, I think it's an interesting one, because it's like I felt rewarded in terms of what I was learning for myself. I think I always look at things a bit more intrinsically rather than seeking external kind of validation. But it was nice that she went out of her way to send me a message about that 10 years later, that she remembered the work that I did on this particular account. So that was really nice.
I love the almost thing of ask for forgiveness, not permission.
Yeah.
So taking that report, doing that thing, and almost saying this is what I got from it, or whatever. And we promote that so much with Girls in Marketing in our community, because I think so many people, they wait to be told what to do. And some of the best advice that I've ever had is don't wait to be told what to do. Just go and do it. Obviously, if it's not going to kill anyone or do anything too bad, just do it. And what's the kind of worst that can happen? I think weighing up the risks is a good thing. Obviously, if it is a massive risk, maybe don't go away and do crazy things because of this episode. But if it's something like what you said, a report you can download, you can do, even if they weren't to do anything with that, what you did, at least they know that you've got that initiative to do that. Tell me a little bit more about kind of, since then. So you've worked a lot with Lego. Tell me a little bit about that and SEO, because I feel like it's such a huge household name brand. How do you even do SEO for Lego?
Do you know, it's so funny, because I remember when I went off to go and work on Lego, people were like, that's really strange. You like fashion, you always talk about fashion. If anyone that's ever followed me on Twitter, I literally am talking about SEO, fashion and football. Probably more football than the fashion, but do you know what I mean? That's literally what I would be tweeting about. And people are like, oh, this is really strange. Why would you go and work on this kind of account? And do you know what? I love Lego. I grew up with Lego. I always wanted more Lego when I was younger. And it just felt like an interesting challenge. I felt like, okay, I've got all of this knowledge I've picked up, but it's very niche heavy, because at the time I was working, obviously, like I said, a mix of high street and luxury brands. And then I've got, then I had a few clients which fell into the travel niche as well. So, and I kind of felt like I was boxed in with just those kind of niches. So I was like, let me go and see what Lego is about. And it was an amazing opportunity that came with an amazing pay rise. I was like, and technically it was a sidestep. So side steps are okay, like, you know, and especially as it came with, like I said, a massive pay rise. So I decided to take that job at this other agency, and was working on Lego. And funny you say that, because something that one of my old contacts said to me, and I never forgot it, was he basically said, like, we're Lego, we probably don't need to do marketing because everybody knows Lego. Even building block toys are called Lego, even though it's not Lego. So it's the brand names become the commodity. So he's like, you're going to have to think out of the box. And this was after doing a strategy doc. And he's like, yeah, that's nice, but you're going to have to think differently because we technically don't really need to do any of this, but they have their targets, they have to grow. So I was like, oh, okay. And so I think it was an amazing challenge, and a lot of stuff that I probably learned from working with on such a big, like, household name is kind of influenced a lot of stuff. And, like, how can I put it eloquently? It is heavily influenced a lot of how I would work with other brands, and even how I approach, like, search strategy or SEO strategy as well. And everyone's always like, asks the same question, like, how do you do, like, SEO? And to be honest with you, like, it all fell down to, like, really understanding, like, their audiences, and Lego does a really good job of that. And they invest quite heavily and collaborate with Google and other different bodies and platforms to get as much information as they can on their audience. And obviously their audience is also interesting because their product is actually for kids. They do have a lot of products that are actually not for kids as well, but the kids are technically the consumers. And then you've got your parents who would be the shoppers, if you will. And then you've got this other group of people that are just adults, but they just love Lego. I probably fall into this category, adult fans of Lego. But yeah, so they understand all of this stuff. So it kind of taught me that instead of doing my traditional SEO where I've got a new brand I'm working on, you might crawl the website, you'll get all the H1s to get the keywords, and then you plug it into a tool and you grow out those keywords. It was more so, okay, they understand that part, but what else? Kind of thing. So what Lego taught me to do is understand how, like, we can meet them in their moments in their day, in their day-to-day lives, that they might not be necessarily thinking about Lego, because everyone probably has Lego. Do you know what I mean? So how else can you, like, be a part of their life? So so we kind of did, like, this huge project with Google where they basically told us, these are the people that come to the site. These are the other interests that they are looking into. And then it was my team's job to basically do keyword research around all of these external interests. But then these became the foundations of, like, a few other bits of other things as well.
Yeah. It's so interesting because with, you know, if you think of e-commerce, for example, I feel like you might search as a consumer. I've done, like, e-com SEO before, and it's like, you know, blue dresses or something like that, but you're not necessarily going to be searching, like, blue building blocks. So I feel like when it comes to the likes of Lego or things, when it's you just know the brand and you've got such a solid brand that it's almost like, how do you think outside the box and do that?
Yeah, exactly. Like, Lego's a brand that they even have, like, you see SKU numbers having crazy search volumes, but that's because people know exactly what they want. So they're not going to type in, I want this set. They'll just type in the SKU number of that set. And so you have to really understand that. But I think what was key there was really understanding the audience and what they would search around outside of that, and how can Lego meet them at their point of interest or their point of need that's away from just the basics of what their product is about, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I love that because we talk so much about user journeys and all of that sort of thing. And I love thinking about the fact that it's not just about when they're ready to buy or when people are, like, got the cards in the hand and they're going to buy something. It's about how do you go on that journey with them and, you know, kind of support them. And I love the fact that that is something more brands are investing in. Yeah,
no, definitely. Because obviously I know we spoke about before, because I feel like before, a lot of brands weren't really thinking like that. They were just thinking very search heavy, very traditional SEO heavy. But now it's like we're in a phase where people's attentions are so short. Like I said, like I was using a viral L'Oreal product today. I might not use it tomorrow because it was like in the moment, if that makes sense. So you really need to capture people's attention, not just in the moment, but then how can you capture people's like love for your brand and that affinity to your brand? It's like a brand like Lego, because it's so huge, they managed to achieve that. But I guess for newer brands that are entering the market, regardless of niche, it will take you a while to kind of build that. But then there's ways that you can use search to facilitate that instead of doing the traditional thing of just being discoverable, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I love that because branding is so important.
Yeah.
And I see so many brands that are like, oh yeah, we want to invest in SEO, but they're not investing in their brand as well.
Yeah.
How would you say you can kind of do both? Like, you know, build your brand, but also focus on the SEO?
Good question. So obviously the SEO bits, I think the best way to look at it is get your, like the basics of what your product is, right? And obviously like basic SEO strategy is, if you want to attract new people to your website, you need to be hyper visible around generic terms, because people won't know your brand, but they might look for, let's say, trainers. So they'll look at it that way, if that makes sense. Whereas you want to start training people to look for your brand and then the product as well at the same time. Okay. And I think that's where you can start to really leverage things like UGC now and influencer marketing and content to kind of get people to understand these two things. So content will still help you, like on site, for example, will still help you rank for your generic terms. But then digital PR, UGC, that kind of thing, that's where people then start to attach your brand name to the product. And then they start searching in that way. So I'm now of the belief these days, I'm not that I'm SEO god, but you know, I'm now of the stronger belief that yes, it's still good to do that. But I think actually, if you see an increase in searches around your product and category, then actually you're probably doing something really, like you're doing something right. And I think it's a better measure, because then that now means that people are now desiring your brand and this product. Or they're aspiring to that. So if I give you an example, I remember putting some keyword research some time back for a conference talk I was doing. And I was basically talking about the fact that if you look at sunglasses, for example, right? Sunglasses has a huge, like obviously search term. Anyone that's searching for sunglasses, it could be for anything. Maybe they just need something really quick off ASOS, or maybe they need something, or maybe they want Gucci sunglasses. I don't know. They want something nicer. So you have no idea. But what's interesting is that when you put a brand name and then sunglasses, then obviously the search volumes start to differ. And what I found was that Gucci sunglasses, for whatever reason, always had the highest search volumes in comparison to all of the other brands. So what that tells me is that people aspire to have Gucci sunglasses. And then sunglasses is an important product to a luxury brand, although they might not think so. I think so. And the reason why I say that is because sunglasses are like what you would call like an entry-level product into a brand. So as you go through life, you start to make a bit more money. You want to buy yourself nice things, right? And then your way into like maybe this luxury brand that you're aspiring to buy from is where is something like sunglasses or like a card holder, your small leather goods, you know, that kind of thing, which is not as expensive, but then you can have like a part of the brand. And that's how you start to build affinity with the brand. So I find that all really interesting, because then you can start to piece together stories as to why that is and understand how people are shopping, and you can understand their user journey and their research journey and all that stuff. So yeah, I find it like really, really interesting.
Yeah, it is super interesting so I love that, because I've never really thought of an entry level for brands before, but I suppose I've not necessarily worked with luxury before, you know, thinking about sunglasses and card holders is like that's the entry point. But then I feel like you could have that with so many other brands as well, no matter the price point, especially if you maybe have like a more luxurious price point, or even like B2B, I think is huge. You know, what is that first step? Like maybe a smaller purchase or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. And I think a lot of people a lot of brands could think this way. So like, for example, you might buy, if I use Stanley Cups, because I think everyone's talking about Stanley Cups, why not? So like, obviously, I think what Stanley Cups have been able to do is quite interesting because, and I've even bought one recently. It took like 2 months to arrive, by the way, but it's here now. But the reason why I bought a Stanley Cup is because I've really been into content around like routines, this and that, especially since I've gone like freelance. I'm trying to figure out what my routine is around suddenly I don't have a set structure. So I'm now really into looking at other freelance consultants, what they do in their free time, and they're getting up nice and early. They're going to their Pilates. I do Pilates as well. They got their little cup, and it's just, I'm attaching that to that lifestyle, if that makes sense. And it's so funny because I remember putting some stats before and seeing that searches around morning routines and beauty routines had really like gone through the roof, especially since the whole pandemic situation. People are like really now thinking about themselves. And it's like, actually, why don't you create content around that and show how your product can be a part of that? So obviously when I'm looking at Stanley Cups, I can see how the product forms a nice, you know, like it's in someone's like lifestyle. It's part of their lifestyle. It's part of their routine. So in my head, it's made me think I need one of those. So I can be drinking more water and I can be doing this, but it's not like obvious. I call it modern day product placement. Okay. That's what UGC is now. Mm-hmm. Because back in the day, it made sense to, I don't know, put your Coca-Cola can in a film, right? And then because you really like the film, you're thinking, oh, I want to go and buy Coca-Cola. Now that age, not that it doesn't work anymore. I haven't looked into it personally, maybe it still does. But now it makes more sense that if you've got like an influencer or someone that you follow all the time and you're seeing them using particular products all the time, you naturally start to go and get some of those things as well. And it's not obvious and they haven't sold it to you. It's not in your face. Mm-hmm. So yeah.
Yeah, I think it's that lifestyle piece, isn't it?
Exactly.
It's like you want to live that life. So how do you get to that point? Yeah, I
exactly.
love that.
And then when you start to love a product, you start looking at what else do they have? Does that make sense? The other day I was Googling, I didn't realize that the Stanley Cups aren't leak proof. So now I'm looking at what else can I buy from Stanley that maybe I can put it in my bag and put the straw in a holder. And you know, like I'm now looking for other bits to go with it, if that makes sense. Same way, I did the thing that I just explained where it's like, oh, I've made a little bit of money. Let me go and buy some Gucci sunglasses. Next thing I know, I'm buying Gucci shoes. And then now I'm now in it. So that's how it works. When you like one, if you really like the product and you like what they're about, then you start looking at other things. You're more likely to look back to that brand to go and get what they have.
Yeah. So, I'm so interested to dive into this because we talked a little bit about this before, like multi-platform SEO. Yeah. And I think what we're talking about relates because we were having this discussion before because I am like a TikTok searcher. Yeah. And I feel like this new generation is, I think generations to come will be, what is multi-platform SEO? I think let's just define that and let's talk about it a little bit.
Multi-platform SEO is essentially applying SEO tactics and strategies across various different platforms. So across video search, web search, social media, and e-commerce. I say it broadly like that just because depending on who you're speaking to, that's like global language. That's how we would refer to it. But obviously video could be across like Vimeo, YouTube. E-commerce could be across like Amazon or eBay, or I've even done stuff on Walmart in the past, that kind of thing. So it's basically just applying your same SEO tactics and strategies across anything else that has a search engine that's not just Google or a website. So when people think of SEO, they think just website, but actually it's more of the practice of thinking and understanding that people's point of search no longer starts off in a traditional search engine. Like you said, TikTok now, and even Google's acknowledged that, you know, TikTok has now become a bit of a threat when it comes to this area because a lot of Gen Zs, I think there was a stat around 50 to 60% of Gen Zs would go to TikTok first to do their search as opposed to anything else. So, which is like really interesting. And even there was a stat, which I'm not sure if it's been updated, but I think it was like 70% of people, even if they're searching online, like traditional search for products, they'll all check Amazon. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I do that.
Yeah, they'll check Amazon just to see if they can get the product cheaper on Amazon. Mm-hmm. And Amazon's easier to deal with for a lot of people for
Exactly.
like good customer service. You can get the things same day or next day, and then the price is a bit more competitive. So, and even going back to the Lego example, they really understood that. So they sold on Amazon and would create landing pages as they would like on their website with the different categories. It's the exact same thing. But they really understood that they have a section of their audience that are like die-hard Lego fans were only going to buy from lego.com, right? But then they also knew that they've got people that they love Lego, but they're just going to go and buy it on Amazon, which is like a lot of people. So when you think about like 70% of people, if they're looking for products, they'll check Amazon. That's kind of scary. So you can't ignore these other platforms that people are going to. And you also need to understand where these platforms fall along their user journey, if that makes sense. So Amazon would probably be at the end of the journey where they're about to make their purchase, but it's also pretty strong in the research phase as well. You need to understand the nuances of that. When it comes to discovery, it might start at the TikTok or the Instagram kind of thing. YouTube might be where they're trying to kind of do more research on the product at their consideration phase. They'll go on YouTube, see how people are using it, how they've incorporated it, people's reviews, that kind of thing. And then they'll make the decision to do that. And then how social media and maybe like even other types of email marketing can form what happens after that.
Enjoying today's episode? You'll love our new marketing newsletter. Introducing Socialtainment. We'll cover the latest marketing news, trends, and more so you never miss a thing. Sign up now at girlsinmarketing.com/socialtainment to receive an email in your inbox every Monday. I have literally been through that phase. So last year I booked a holiday to Egypt and I was like, okay, I don't know where to stay. I know I want to go to Egypt because we wanted to go in like October time. So the first thing was I Googled places that are warm in October and there was like loads of places that came up, and I've been to Egypt before, really enjoyed it. So I was like, okay, I'll go to Egypt. Then I was in that kind of discovery phase of like, I don't really know where to go in Egypt, but also I don't know where to stay. So my first instinct was TikTok. It was like places to stay in Egypt. Literally the search was that. Came up with loads of places. Most of it was focused on like hotels, which for me at that stage was quite like far in the distance because I wanted to know places. So then I kind of like looked at YouTube more because I was kind of like, you know, a bit further out. Didn't want to get stuck into it. Then I decided on Sharm el Sheikh, and then I was like, okay, amazing. Right. Then I went back to TikTok and I was like, hotels in Sharm el Sheikh. And I looked at loads of different ones, and it was literally a video, 60 seconds. It was just like a creator. Like, I don't even think it had that many likes, but the hotel looked really nice. We booked it. But before we booked it, I went on like TripAdvisor and Google, checked out the reviews. So that was in my journey, but it wasn't the first thing. Whereas I feel like my mum or nan would probably go first to TripAdvisor or Google than they would to TikTok. So I think it's super interesting to understand, because obviously thinking about individual user journeys, but also that generational part as well. Is like older people, where are they going to start their journey versus maybe younger people?
Do you know what's really interesting in terms of what you said, in terms of like younger people versus older people, and how even when it comes to travel as well. And that's why even like looking at particular niches, when it comes to like understanding different niches and how you do SEO for it, and multi-platform SEO for those is really important. So like, with travel, for example, I did some work recently with a luxury travel concierge company. And what I found interesting from my research when I was coming up with their strategy was that, like you said, you went onto TikTok because you were like, oh, I want to go here. And now you're looking for that thing. In the past, I've used TikTok myself. I've even used, the location stories on Instagram. I've literally been in the south of, I was in Cannes one time. We were like, where do we go? We literally clicked on, what's everyone tagging like in their stories, like live. So we found a club and ended up going to this place 3 times already because it was so good. But that was literally from what we saw on stories. So it does work, and that's how people are. What I found really interesting is that what they, so obviously you get inspired visually. So it's usually video, and then it goes into images if you want to think about like content formats. And then the other thing I realized was that from looking at like a bunch of keyword research and looking at the competitors of this travel company, bookings.com was like clear. They rank for the most keywords. that drive the most traffic, that does everything. And then when I was looking at the keywords that they rank highly for, they're very generic keywords and this and that. And then the more I dive deep into it, I realized that people use bookings as their Google for hotels.
Yeah.
And then, so they still book on it, don't get me wrong. I mean, I book on bookings all the time. But if you're a bit more affluent, you might be part of a little hotel club. So you might do your research on there just to compare prices, but you'll go off and book here, if that makes sense. I find that really, really interesting. And then going back to what you're saying in terms of different ages, like back in the day, our parents and grandparents would go to the travel agent, and the travel agent would book all of it. Now, the way we think is we might see something first and be like, oh, I want to go there. And then the next thing you're going to do is you might go to Google and search for flights to this place. If the price looks all right for flights, then you're going to look for hotels. That's literally the pattern that people do. The funny thing is that a lot of travel companies, this is probably insider secret, a lot of travel companies make no money selling flights. They make their money selling holidays. So every travel brand I've ever worked with, that's always the brief. We need to sell more holidays. We need to do this with holidays. The thing is, we can get you ranking number 1 for holidays, but no one's buying holidays. And what they find is that it's always an older demographic that's booking holidays because they've been trained and brought up that way, that's how you book your trips. Whereas with us, it's like you book your hotel, you book this separately, you try to get the best deals for it, and then you make it work that way. It's not all under like one house. So it's really interesting understanding like your different audiences and how they search, why they search that way, and how you can kind of make the most of what you want them to do, if that makes sense.
And almost kind of like push them to that next stage
exactly,
as well.
Yeah,
it's interesting because when you think of that user journey or almost like a sales funnel sort of thing, it's like, okay, well, how do we push those people down that, that funnel?
Exactly. And if you look at like the data, and like I was going back to the whole multi-platform SEO thing, you can do keyword research on like TikTok, Instagram, that kind of thing. You can get like estimates of what the potential search volumes are going to be. If you're seeing that maybe on a particular platform, search volumes are really high over here as opposed to over there, then that tells me that, okay, if I use the example of YouTube, people are looking at things to do, this and that, and there's high volumes of it, but then maybe it doesn't translate in the same, like in terms of search volumes on like maybe Google search or what we want them to do. So then if I can see that, then it might mean that maybe people don't understand if they go here what they can do. So maybe create that content on site, have that content on socials so people can check and verify it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And that way, when you start to understand these different things, then you can give better recommendations of what they need to do to push people through that funnel. Because it's all good and well ranking number 1. Like every SEO person's probably had this issue where you've got your client ranking number 1 for all their key terms. When people are clicking, they're just not buying. They're not converting. And at the end of the day, that's why they're paying you. They want people to convert. So yeah.
So maybe thinking more about that user journey and where you play, and branding as well, obviously, is something we've chatted about. So before we wrap up, I want to ask you a question, because loads of people will be listening and probably, hopefully, be interested in SEO and search. What are some advice that you would kind of give to people who want to, young, ambitious, want to really conquer the world of SEO and digital? Like, what are some words of advice that you would give to those people?
I would say SEO is always changing. It changes very quickly and rapidly. And obviously we've got things like ChatGPT, there's other generative AI things that Google's doing. There's so much going on. So I think my advice is stay on the ball with that kind of thing. Start talking about it as well. You don't have to be an expert. Like, nobody in SEO is an expert. I always find that people that probably talk the most actually on social probably don't know that much, but it is what it is. So I think just make sure you teach yourself everything and don't depend on anyone to give you like your opportunities, and don't depend on anyone to come and teach you. Like, I've managed people so many people in the past where they were like, oh, how do you do this? How can I do this? And I'm like, what did you do first? That was always been my question. And they look at me like, and it's like, there's Google. We work on Google. Like, like, our job is to make things visible. It's like, so did you Google? Like this thing that we do work on every day.
Yeah.
And they're looking at me like, I was like, Google first, then you come with, this is what I found. What else can I do? And then it's like, it's easy to work with. And the thing is, if you do that, like, honestly, anyone you work with that can give you the opportunity, they admire things like that because they can see that you've got a passion, you've got a drive, you want to take control of your destiny, and they'll be more than happy to do that. No one wants to push somebody along that doesn't want to walk, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Because then like you're not going to move anywhere. So I think, especially if you want to get into SEO, keep up to date with the latest news. Twitter's a great place. The SEO community basically lives on Twitter. So there's so much content you can find and groups and things like that you can find on there. Know the publications to be keeping like up to date with, read about it and have opinions, and yeah.
Yeah. Well, and that's a big thing as well. It's like ask for forgiveness and not permission.
Yes.
I feel like that is a really good running theme of today.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think I'm always like that. So I always promote that people do that as well. And it's just like, no one's going to do it for you. So you make sure you do it yourself. And sometimes it's not even on purpose. It's not even intentional. Your manager might be really, really busy, or whoever that you're working with might be really, really busy. So, but the thing is, if you look at your circumstances and you think there's no way, you can't go on their timelines. You need to make your own timelines. Yeah. So yeah, definitely ask for forgiveness rather than permission.
I honestly could speak all day, but I'm going to have to wrap it up. So thank you so much for coming into the studio today. It's been so nice having you.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Girls in Marketing podcast. It was a good one, wasn't it? If you enjoyed the episode, please leave a review and rating of the podcast and share it with someone who may find it useful. Your support really does go a long way. We'll be back next week with a brand new episode, but in the meantime, keep up to date with Girls in Marketing over on social media and our website. We'll pop some helpful links in the description.